Okay, so now we're in Malachim Beis, Perek Yud Gimel. So just a quick summary where we're up to. So at the end of Perek Yud Beis, Joash, who was the Malachim Yehuda, he died. He was killed actually, and he was killed. And then what happens? Yimlach Amatzia b'nei So Amatzia, his son, takes over, and now we're going to go shift now to the story of Malachim Yisrael. B'shnas Eshem v'shalosh shana in the 13th year, Yoash ben Achazio, and he's dead. But it's saying is in his 13th year of Melech Yehuda, Malach Yoachaz ben Yoel Yisrael. So there he was Melech Yisrael, B'Shamron, and Sheva of Esrei Shana, and for 17 years he was a Melech on the Shamron. So just showing you the contrast between what's happening in Yehuda and what's happening in Yisrael. Now, but at the same time, while we're sitting there and we're fixing the Beis HaMikdash and the whole construction project is going on, inside Yisrael is not the same. In Yisrael, v'yas Rabbeinu Hashem, v'yelech achar echatois, Rabbeinu Menavot, asher hechtes Yisrael, v'lai sarim mena. So on the side of Yisrael, they were doing Avodah Zarah, and they were doing like Rabbeinu Menavot, like we had earlier. They weren't doing Asherah. It seems like they were just doing like they done and in Beit El, they were doing the Egel of Rabbeinu Menavot. Okay, what happens? Hashem gets angry at Klal Yisrael. V'yitnei biyad Chazil melech Aram. So now, since the Klal Yisrael is doing Avodah Zarah, they're doing Rabbeinu Menavot's Avodah Zarah. So therefore, Hashem suddenly Aram starts up, and Chazil gets involved, and Hashem gives Klal Yisrael in the hands of Chazal melech Aram or biyad ben Hadad, and it's not the same Hadad as earlier. This is Ben Chazil. This is his son, Kol Yomi. So the Klal Yisrael was always in problems with who? With Chazal from Aram. Okay, Pazik Dalet. Okay, Vayichal Yoachaz as Pnei Hashem. So now the Melech he screams out to Hashem, Vayishma, I love Hashem. Hashem listens to him. In other words, he even though he did it by the Zarah, but still he calls out to Hashem. He raw Lachas Yisrael. He saw Hashem saw that Klal Yisrael was being oppressed and they were in pain. Hashem not because Klal Yisrael had chosim, not because of the word of Zarah, but since they were in pain and they were being oppressed, Hashem saw that pain and he started bringing the Yeshua. Rashi says, okay, actually that's the next passage. Hashem Yisrael Mashiach, and Hashem brought a Mashiach. Who was the Mashiach? Was his son. It was his son, and his name was Yoash. It was a different Yoash. It was Yoash ben Yoachaz. It was a different Yoash. And what happened? And Hashem through him, Aram. Hashem let them get out from Aram. And Klal Yisrael, they settled like a regular time. In other words, Hashem kind of answered them, and through this Yoash, a different Yoash, they had better times. Pasuk love. Ach loy sorrow, but still Klal Yisrael did not turn away. Mechadas beis Yiravam Asher Hishchet Yisrael. Klal Yisrael still did Avodah Zarah, Bahalach, and v'gam Asherah amdu b'Shamron. And now it adds on that they also did Asherah. I'm not sure if it's addition. Seems like before they did, Klal Yisrael did Stam Avodah Zarah, but now they even did Asherah they brought that in the Shamron. Or could be just the whole time was going on, just the pasuk didn't say it. Pasuk Zayin. Ki lahisher lehachaz now since Aram started up, so what happened was Yoachaz was not left over with many people. In Yisrael they had Ki'im Chamisha Parashim, they only had like 50 horsemen, Asar Rechev and 10 chariots, and Aseres Alafim Raglin, and they had 10,000 troops. Basically, Yisrael was wiped out. And this is all because Klal Yisrael did Avodah Zarah, and therefore they were in trouble beyond Aram. It was almost ki ibda melech Aram v'simukar for the dash. Aram destroyed Klal Yisrael so much they were like being trampled like dust. They were gone. Now, Pazaches v'yes Yoachaz v'choash asa v'gros. If you want to hear more about him and all that he did, himsuvim al sefer divrei yamim l'makisol. You can look it up. You go to the Vayamim and you get more information about him. Now, what happened? Yishkav Yoachaz, he dies. He dies and he's buried in Sharon. V'yimloich Yoash b'noi tachlis. And now Yoash becomes the Melech of Yisrael. Okay, pasuk good. Now in the 37th year, the Yoash Melech Yehuda. So now in the 37th year, Yoash. Again, earlier we said Yoash died, but it's just saying in the 37th year of Yoash, Malach Yoash ben Achaz al Yisrael b'Shamron. So that was right at the end of Yoash, which we know he went ruled for 40 years. So the last 3 years there was another Yoash in Yehuda, and he ruled, and he became king, and he was a king over Shamron for 16 years. Okay, pasuk it off. Again, Hashem, again, they followed the way the Zara. And it was the same story again. Yes, it did. Yoash, Asa, Ugrosai, Asher Nilcham Im Amatzia Melech Yehuda, Halim Psuvim. I'll say Divrei Yomim Machisol. You can look it up if you want to go up to Divrei Yomim and you get more information about that Melech. Okay. Now, V'yishkav Yoash of Yisrael. So now Yoash dies. Yeravam Yoshav Akisai. Now Yeravam, who's this Yeravam? So Rashi says he was a son. He had a son named Yeravam. And what? And he became Yeravam Yoshav Akisai. So he took over. V'yikvar Yoash b'Shamron Machis Akisai. So Yoash dies, and this is the Melech of Yisrael now. So at this point, the Melech Yehuda Yoash dies, and the Melech of Shamron, which is the Melech Yisrael, he dies also. And now that's the end of the story of these kings. Now, pasuk Gidal. Elisha Chala. Now it's the end of the life of Elisha. Now, this is a chayil that he's going to die. What does that mean? Because he got sick a few times. We know he got sick because he was punished. Earlier we had a story where Elisha was walking down the street and he sees these boys and they're calling out. They said, "Bald guy," and they referred to Elisha because he took away his parnasa. Because what happened was Elisha went ahead and made the water sweet, and now the people who used to bring the sweet water to the town didn't have a job, so they made fun of Elisha. So Elisha went basically ahead and he basically cursed them, and bears came and he killed them. So there were 42 children that were killed. So because of that, Elisha got sick, and also the story of Gehazi. We know Elisha. Because Elisha went ahead and pushed him away with 2 hands and gave him very strong musar. So also he was punished. So now it's saying, he's saying that he got sick, and this is a sick that he's going to die from. Okay? I love Yoash. Now Yoash, Melech Yisrael, he goes to Elisha, and he cries upon of. Now you have to realize, Yoash is in Russia. And he goes to Elisha, he cries, he says, Avi, rachamim Yisrael Farashav. That's a very familiar pasuk. That's the pasuk we have of Yonavi went up. And Elisha went ahead and said that. What does that mean? He said, that means, the way Rashi learned it earlier, it means, Rachamim Yisrael, your tefillas, you over here, it's for Elisha saying, your tefillas, Elisha, are more chashiv than riders and chariots. But it's funny, because that's the same pasuk that Elisha said about Yonavi when he went up to Shemayim. Elisha, he says, so now Elisha tells Yoash, he tells him, now what happened was Yoash was nervous that now that Elisha's not around, there's no schusim anymore. So now Aram is going to come and is going to wipe him out. So he's crying, he's nervous, and he's scared. So Elisha tells him, bring him a bow and arrow. I love So he brought him an arrow. He tells him, put your hand on the bow. And he put his hand on the bow. And now Elisha put his hand on top of him. And Elisha told him, Pesach, open up the window toward east. Where's the east? Aram. Right? So Rashi, Mol Eretz Aram, right, it's a Mizrach. So again, so the Melech Yoash, and Elisha has a hand on him, and he opens up the window. V'yiftach, and he opens it up. V'yamer Elisha, he says, Yere ve'yere. Shoot the arrow towards Aram, and he shot the arrow. Yehuda says, "Chaytz teshuvah Hashem." This arrow, an arrow of is the teshuvah, the Yeshua of Hashem. The chaytz teshuvah by Ram, and the arrow is also the arrow of salvation. In other words, this arrow means that you're going to have Yeshua over Aram. And he tells him, "He kisses Aram by Afik." And he should attack Aram in a place called Afik until Aram is destroyed. So basically, Elisha's telling you, "You don't have to worry. You could right now shoot." The remedy he gave him was that you're going to be successful if you attack Aram in this certain area. Okay? Then Elisha says, Kachitim, take the kacha achitim, the yikach, and he took it. And take another arrow. You ever let Melech Yisrael? He says hach arza. He says strike it. The arrows to the ground. Yach, and he did it. Shalish pa'amim. He did it. He took the arrows and he hit it in the ground three times. And then he stopped. Why did he stop? The Yiksaif, Allah, Ishalikim, the Yomi. Elisha got very angry. He said, "Why did he stop?" He says, "Yomi, lahakos." He says, if you would have hit it, if you would have hit the arrow in the ground 5-6 times, as Aram. And then when you attack Aram, when you attack Aram, you will be able to finish off Aram. You would have been totally decimated Aram. It would be destroyed. Now that you only hit in the ground, Shalish Pam 3 times, Takas Aram. Now that you only did 3 times, so now you're only going to win over Aram 3 times. No, you're not going to totally be able to eradicate Aram. That was the remez that Elisha told him. He said that you shouldn't have stopped. Now is the end of Elisha. Yomi Elisha, and then Elisha dies and they bury him. Okay, Elisha passed away. The Navi Yishalikim. Now at the same time as they were burying him, Gedudei Moav Yaviv Eretz, some sort of band of people of Moav came and they came and they went to invade in Eretz Yisrael. Bashan in the beginning of the year. So the reason why is because the beginning of the year is a good time for armies to attack. Why? Because the beginning of a year is when the weather is really good, and at that time there's a lot of teshuvah for the animals. So it's a good time for an army to start this way. When the tanks or the horses, he called it, come out, they have to eat and they have food. So that's why it says at the beginning of the year. Now what happened? The Hihim Karvanish, they were in the middle of burying a person. Vihine Ra as a gedud. And again, Elisha dies and they bury him. Fine. Now it's time has passed. I'll just explain. Time has passed, and now they're burying somebody else. And now, as they're burying somebody else, this band of robbers comes. And they were middle burying a certain person. As soon as they saw this band of robbers coming, quickly they bekever Elisha. So they saw a kever, and they're like, really, they're going to dig another kever, another hole. But they didn't have time because there was the robbers coming. So what did they do? They opened up the grave of Elisha and they stuck this guy in. And as soon as they put him in, Elisha, as soon as the bones of this person, we'll see in a minute who this person was, touches the bones of Elisha, quickly, this person had Chias HaMesim. So Elisha did Chias HaMesim even after he died. Who is this person? So some say, the whole Shiloh who it is. Some say it was a Navi Sheker. Remember we had the real Navi and the fake Navi? Some say that was a Navi Sheker. Some say it was this person that was named Shulam Ben Tikva. Who was Shulam Ben Tikva? So it's brought down that he was a big tzaddik. Okay, he was a big tzaddik of the generation. He used to fill up pails of water for people and he used to give them water. What happened was, one day he dies. And now, so why is Zechet Chias HaMesim? Because since he gave people water, he gave them life, he gave them Mayim Chayim, therefore, he was Zechet Chias HaMesim. Okay, there's others, some say it was this person, some say it was the son of the Isha Shanamis, some say it was Tikva, it was this person, Tzedekah Ben Kanana, but different people, it's possible. Either way, we see this is the final nace of Elisha. Even after he died, he did a nace, he did Chias HaMesim. Pasuk HaBeis, the Chazal Melech Aram, Lochat says Yisrael, and once again, Chazal, King Aram, he started with Klai Yisrael, Kol Yimei Yechel, all the days of Yechaz. Now, Pasuk HaGimel, of Yachan Hashem Yisam, but still Hashem had rachamim in them, and they turn back. Why the Mabrisa is Avram Mitzvah Yaakov? Because the mice at the end of the day is chos avos, and because of that Hashem rachamim v'lo ava shlisam v'lo yishlichtam me'al panav arata. And Hashem didn't want to destroy Klai Yisrael totally, so because it's chos avos, they turned around. What happens? Pasuk Chavdal v'yomas Chazal Melech Aram. Chazal dies. Yimach Ben Hadad b'nai tachnav. So now his son Ben Hadad, we had earlier, he took over. The Yoash of Yisrael ben Yochaz. So now he returned. Aram. He took back the cities. Yad ben Hadad ben Chazel. Shalokach Yad Yochaz Aviv b'Milchama. And this happened. Shalish Pam Miko Yoash, and Yoash went ahead and hit them 3 times. The Yoash of Yisrael. Why 3 times? Because Elisha told him that he'll be able to do it 3 times. So at the end of the day, the nevuah of Elisha comes true, and 3 times. And Yoash hit Ben Hadad or Chazal 3 times, and eventually recovered the cities of Yisrael. Okay, So that's what happened. So the Nevuah of Elisha comes true, and that's the end of Perek Yud Gimel. And now we can start Perek Yud Aleph.